Monday, August 21st, 1911. The Louvre Museum in Paris was quiet. It was always closed to the public on Mondays. This was a day for cleaning. It was a day for maintenance and repairs. Guards walked the silent, echoing halls, their footsteps the only sound. But on this particular Monday, something was terribly, catastrophically wrong. The world's most famous, most enigmatic smile was missing from its usual place. The Mona Lisa, Leonardo da Vinci's treasured masterpiece, was gone. It had vanished. It had been stolen from right under their noses. The news would soon send shockwaves across the globe. The theft was not a dramatic cloak and dagger affair executed in the dead of night. There were no shattered windows glinting in the moonlight. No daring acrobats were seen swinging from ropes, evading laser beams. It seemed to have happened in the calm, ordinary light of day, even though the museum was officially closed to visitors. Workers were indeed inside the vast building, attending to their various tasks. The thief, it was later understood, was likely among them, or had cleverly hidden himself until the opportune moment. The sheer simplicity of the act was what made it so shocking. The world's greatest, most recognizable painting spirited away as if by magic. How could such a thing possibly happen in such a renowned institution? At first, incredibly, no one even noticed her absence. A visiting French artist named Louis Béroud arrived at the Louvre on Tuesday morning, August 22nd. He had come with the intention of sketching the Mona Lisa in her usual spot in the Salon Carré. Instead, he found only an empty space on the wall. 4 iron pegs stared back at him. Confused, he asked a nearby guard about the painting's whereabouts. The guard, unconcerned, initially thought it had been taken to be photographed by the museum's official photographers. Or perhaps he suggested it was being cleaned. This was a normal occurrence. But hours ticked by. The painting did not reappear. A slow, dawning sense of unease began to creep through the museum staff. Panic was starting to set in. Finally, the museum officials were forced to confront the unthinkable truth. The Mona Lisa was not with the photographers. It was not undergoing a routine cleaning. It was truly, undeniably gone. The initial disbelief swiftly turned into a chilling horror. The Louvre, considered a veritable fortress of art, a sanctuary for priceless treasures, had been breached. Its most precious jewel, the enigmatic La Gioconda, had been plucked from its setting as easily as a common trinket. The news would soon ignite a firestorm in Paris. Then, inevitably, that firestorm would spread, consuming the entire world with its intensity. The search for the missing lady began immediately, a desperate race against time. The man behind this audacious, almost unbelievable theft was an Italian immigrant named Vincenzo Peruggia. He was not a master criminal or a sophisticated art thief from the pages of a novel. He was an ordinary man, a house painter and handyman by trade. Crucially, he had previously worked at the Louvre. He had been employed for a short time by a firm hired to install protective glass cases for some of the museum's most valuable paintings. This included the Mona Lisa herself. This brief employment gave him intimate knowledge. He knew the museum's sprawling layout. He knew its daily routines and schedules. He knew its security vulnerabilities, its weak spots. This insider knowledge was his most powerful tool. Peruggia's plan, in retrospect, was shockingly simple, almost insultingly so. There are a couple of theories about how he gained access. He may have hidden inside a stuffy, forgotten storeroom overnight on Sunday, waiting patiently. Or more likely, he simply entered the vast museum on that fateful Monday morning along with other legitimate workers. He was wearing a white worker's smock, the standard attire for museum employees and contractors. Many other men in similar smocks were present that day, busy with their tasks. He blended in seamlessly. No one paid him any special attention as he moved with purpose through the familiar halls. He had a singular, daring, almost unbelievable purpose in mind. He made his way to the Salon Carré. This grand gallery was where the Mona Lisa held court, admired by thousands daily. It was still early in the morning. The room was deserted. With no one to witness his actions, he calmly approached the painting. He lifted the surprisingly heavy artwork off the wall. The Mona Lisa, painted on a thick panel of poplar wood, weighed approximately 18 pounds. He then carried it to a nearby little-used service staircase. There, hidden from view, he quickly and efficiently removed the painting from its heavy, ornate frame. He also discarded its protective glass case. He needed to be swift. He needed to be unseen. With the precious wooden panel now concealed beneath his white worker's smock, Perugia made his escape. He encountered a momentary obstacle. A door on the service staircase was locked. He fumbled with the doorknob, attempting to remove it. Just then, as if by a stroke of bizarre luck, a museum plumber happened to walk by. The plumber saw Perugia, dressed in the familiar worker's attire, seemingly struggling with a stubborn door. Thinking nothing amiss, and perhaps assuming Perugia had simply forgotten his keys, the helpful plumber unlocked the door for him. Perugia muttered a thank you and simply walked out of the Louvre, into the bustling streets of Paris. The Mona Lisa, serene and silent, was with him. The news exploded across Paris, and then the world like a detonation. "Mona Lisa stolen," screamed the newspaper headlines in bold, frantic letters. The city of Paris was thrown into an uproar. How could such a monumental failure of security occur? The Louvre, the very pride of France, a symbol of its cultural heritage, was deeply humiliated. Its reputation for safeguarding treasures was left in tatters. Its security measures were suddenly exposed as a joke. People were outraged. People were also undeniably fascinated. The theft of the Mona Lisa became the biggest, most talked about story on the planet. Everyone, everywhere, discussed the missing lady. Her famously enigmatic smile was now the subject of a global mystery. The French police immediately launched a massive, high-profile investigation. They were under immense pressure, desperate to recover the painting and apprehend the thief. They interviewed every single museum staff member, from the director down to the cleaners. They sealed the French borders, hoping to prevent the painting from being smuggled out of the country. A substantial reward was offered for any information leading to her recovery. Suspects seemed to be everywhere, yet nowhere. For a brief, surreal period, even the famous avant-garde poet Guillaume Apollinaire was arrested and questioned. His friend, the rising artist Pablo Picasso, was also brought in for interrogation. They were, of course, innocent, but the police were frantic, chasing every conceivable lead, every fleeting shadow. The public's reaction to the theft was intense and extraordinary. Thousands of people, Parisians and tourists alike, flocked to the Louvre. They were not coming to admire the vast collections of art that remained. Instead, they came to stare almost reverently at the empty space on the wall in the Salon Carré. The spot where the Mona Lisa used to hang, marked only by those 4 iron pegs, became a peculiar attraction in itself. People left flowers at the site. They left mournful notes and poems. It was as if they were visiting the shrine of a departed celebrity. Ironically, the empty space drew more curious visitors than the painting itself had sometimes attracted before its disappearance. The world was utterly captivated by the void. The Mona Lisa's image, as a direct result of her absence, was suddenly ubiquitous. Newspapers around the globe printed her picture daily, often on the front page, keeping the story alive. "Have you seen this woman?" The stories implicitly asked their millions of readers. Reproductions of the painting, prints, postcards, cheap copies sold in unprecedented numbers. Her serene face and mysterious smile began to appear on posters. Advertisements for all sorts of products cleverly co-opted her likeness, capitalizing on her newfound notoriety. She became infinitely more famous in her absence than she ever had been while quietly hanging in the Louvre. The theft was inadvertently transforming her from a respected masterpiece into a global, popular icon. 2 long, frustrating years passed. The trail for the missing Mona Lisa had grown cold, despite the relentless efforts of investigators. Many people around the world began to believe that the masterpiece was lost forever. Perhaps it had been accidentally destroyed by an amateur thief. Perhaps it was hidden away, deep within the vault of some secretive, unscrupulous private collector, never to be seen again by the public. The world, with a sigh of resignation, slowly began to move on to other news, other sensations. Then in December of 1913, an unexpected letter arrived. It was sent to an art dealer in the city of Florence, Italy. Alfredo Geri was his name. The letter writer made an astonishing claim. He had the Mona Lisa, and he wanted to sell it. The man behind the letter was, of course, Vincenzo Perugia. For 2 years, he had kept the priceless painting in his modest, sparsely furnished Paris apartment. It was hidden, rather unceremoniously, inside a wooden trunk, sometimes. He apparently kept it under his bed. His primary motivation for the theft, he later passionately claimed, was patriotism. He genuinely, if mistakenly, believed that Napoleon Bonaparte and his armies had stolen the Mona Lisa from Italy during their campaigns. This was a common misconception among many Italians at the time. In reality, Leonardo da Vinci himself had brought the painting to France in the 16th century when he went to work for King Francis I. But Perugia saw himself as a hero, righting a historical wrong. He wanted to return her to Italy, her true home. Alfredo Geri, the Florentine art dealer, was intrigued but understandably cautious. This could be a hoax or a trap. He wisely contacted Giovanni Poggi, who was the esteemed director of the renowned Uffizi Gallery in Florence. Together they arranged to meet Perugia, who was using the alias Leonardo Vincenzo in his room at the Hotel Tripoli Italia in Florence. Perugia, trusting them, showed them the painting he had carried all the way from Paris. It was indeed the Mona Lisa. She was there, unharmed, her smile as captivating as ever, astonishing. They quickly authenticated the masterpiece. Then, while Perugia waited, expecting payment, they promptly notified the police. Vincenzo Perugia was arrested on the spot. The world's most famous painting was finally recovered after 2 years in hiding. Vincenzo Perugia faced trial for his crime. In Italy, however, many people hailed him as a national hero, a true patriot who had tried to reclaim a stolen piece of their heritage. He received a surprisingly light sentence, serving only a few months in prison. The Mona Lisa, before her journey back to France, embarked on a triumphant tour of Italy. She was exhibited in Florence, Rome, and Milan. Huge crowds gathered to cheer and celebrate her recovery and her brief return to Italian soil. When she finally returned to the Louvre in Paris, her fame had reached unimaginable new heights. The daring theft, the 2 years in hiding, and her dramatic recovery had transformed her. From a revered masterpiece, she had become a global superstar, a true celebrity. Millions more flocked to gaze upon her, the lady who was stolen and famously found.